Good evening and welcome to Business First Africa. I'm your host, Glen-Nora Tjipura. Tonight, I sit down with one of Namibia's most promising young leaders, Leena Amwaalwa, who is the founder and director of the Conscious Millennials Foundation and also a recipient of the prestigious Queen Elizabeth II Commonwealth Trust 100 Young Leaders Award, recognizing changemakers from across the Commonwealth. Her work spans youth empowerment, health advocacy, mentorship, and leadership development while championing the African philosophy of Ubuntu. Good evening. How are you?
I'm fine, thanks very much. How are you?
Now, you have done such remarkable work. I feel like you not only have 24 hours in a day, I think you probably squeeze in 48 more hours in it because of all the work you have done so far.
Correct.
Now, getting into the conversation, take us back to the beginning of your journey. What experiences, moments, or people shaped your journey and the person that we know you as today?
Thank you very much. So, growing up, I was categorized as an orphan and vulnerable child. We are mainly called the OVCs. And through that, I've had my personal share of challenges and limitations, not due to potential, but in most cases due to lack of resources and everything. So without knowing it then, that has shaped my journey into who I am today and what I'm trying to build. And another thing is also that when I was growing up, I've experienced opportunities where people whose faces I never get to meet, they contributed towards my upkeep, be it towards school fees, be it going on. I remember having gone on a fully paid school trip, something that on my own I couldn't have managed. So all those have shaped me into who I'm becoming today, and without realizing it then, it was a foundation of what I'm trying to do today. And growing up as a child, my dream was I would like to give back and do to others similar to those who are in cases similar to mine, as others have done it for me. So most of what I'm doing today is a realization of most of my childhood dreams.
Now, you were recently recognized as the Queen Elizabeth II Commonwealth Trust Young Leader. What did that recognition mean to you, both personally and in terms of affirming the work you have been doing?
To me, one that is humbling. I mean, you look at what we do, we just go out in our community, mostly in the vicinity of Katutura, and we get to do what we do, be it raising awareness on cervical cancer, be it taking school kids from the undeserved community to school trips and all that. So to have been recognized at a global stage, to me, that is not only humbling, but it's also affirming the fact that small acts of kindness can actually contribute to building an impact that has the potential to stand at a global stage.
Now, what inspired, you founded the Conscious Millennials creation at a relatively very young age. What inspired the creation of it?
Looking at the name Conscious Millennials, there is a narrative that young people cannot be trusted with this and that. Especially in terms of leadership, we have the norm or the belief that no, young people cannot be entrusted with, say, leading the national agenda. So I then created Conscious Millennials with the idea that I would like to give space to my fellow young people where we get to come together and put our efforts together and contribute to building our national agenda. Hence, if you look at our motto, it says to lift as we rise. So our greatest hope is that when one of us takes a step ahead, they are going to bring along be it some of their colleagues, be it anybody from their community, so then that we get to advance in society as a whole and leave nobody behind.
Leave nobody behind. I love that. I love that. But you're relatively very young when you started all this.
Very much.
Were there not some challenges you would face? I'm sure somebody must have told you, hey, you're dribbling too bold here. Like, how did you overcome some of those challenges? Especially being told that, hey, I think you're taking on too much. You're very young to be studying this and that. Or did you not have those?
I actually have. And I feel like if it wasn't for those, if I couldn't have experienced those challenges, I probably wouldn't be where I am today. I remember most of the doors that I used to knock at asking for assistance, especially because when we started, I was mainly focusing on the cervical cancer awareness campaign. And I remember somebody specifically saying this whole time they thought they were engaging, because they asked first, are you in the healthcare spaces? And I told them, no, I'm not. So they thought apparently they were engaging somebody coming from, you know, an advanced academic institution. And I told them, no, I'm just a girl who saw a gap in my community. And I decided to stand up and be the change that I want to see. We keep talking about being the change that we want to see in our society, but I feel like it started with me, and those challenges that mold me into what I'm doing today. Because then if you have a door slammed in your face, then you get to decide that no, but I feel like this is my goal and I see there is a relevance of doing what I'm doing. So then you look for creative ways. I'll give you an example of our awareness ribbons that we use when we are working on our cervical cancer awareness campaign. Those are just, we just buy material, we cut it ourselves with scissors and we burn it with the candles, and then we put on the pins, and then we get to go out there. So in a way, we didn't sit back and wait for somebody to say, no, please come to us, assist us with ribbons or buy us fancy ribbons from anywhere. It brought out the creativity in ourselves to say, if we cannot get assistance or help here, then we are going to find a way to make it work on our own. And in a way, I feel like we have.
Yeah, no, you've made it work. That's actually really remarkable and very inspiring.
Thank you very much.
To say that, hey, maybe I don't have the funds for this, but I can still make it work with A, B, C, and D that is within my reach.
Very much.
Now, getting into my next question, Ubuntu is a philosophy that features very strongly in your advocacy. What does Ubuntu mean to you personally, and how do you translate it into practical action among young Namibians? And I think previously what we've just discussed now was one of those, was one of the factors, or rather the philosophy playing into place in terms of you guys going out there creating things from just what have you from the community, despite not getting the funds, like you said.
I'll take you back to our motto, which is to lift as we rise. The idea is that with Ubuntu, we are looking at Ubuntu in a sense that we are hoping to create spaces where everyone get to support the next person. And I will also take you back to my childhood, where I was supported, I was brought up by people whose faces I never even get to meet, and I'm certain they never get to ask what is the name of the child that we get to support. So I looked at that then to say, we are hoping then to not only I feel like in a sense we are looking at awakening the spirit of Ubuntu, to say if we support one another, if we lift one another, as I'm taking a step ahead, I bring along a sister, and a sister get to bring along a brother, and a brother get to bring along another person. So in a way we are creating an environment where everyone gets to support one another, and in a way it's going to become our lived experience, where we say, no, in this community we don't leave each other behind, we support one another with the little that we have. We don't have to have much for us to at least support one another. We just have to have that spirit of saying, but this is our lived, that shared experience, so we take along each other.
Now, your work, through your work, particularly dealing with mental health issues and cervical cancer awareness, you have had to engage with communities on a very deep level. You had to deal with deep-seated issues. What are some of those issues that have come up?
One of the issues you find, I'll give you an example of a lady that I once came across when we were working on our cervical cancer awareness campaign in the community. And by the way, how we do that is we take our awareness material, that is our flyers in the vernaculars, and then our awareness ribbons, and then we walk from one settlement to another, distributing awareness material and also conducting health education where possible. So one of the people that I came across was a lady telling me that she appreciated the fact that we get to go to her, because then she gave us an example of the fact that that day she only has $30. And in a way, she's forced to choose between going to this hospital to seek health or spending her last $30 on buying bread for her kids so they get to go to school. So those are some of the challenges that, and these are people that when you meet them, these are the happy people. You hardly see that people are, this is somebody that is dealing with a challenge of that sort. So she's carrying her burden silently. So then looking at that and the fact that somebody has to decide between healthcare and also food at home, those are some of the challenges that we get to deal with.
That's a very sad reality.
Very much.
Because on the one hand, you see the importance of taking care of one's health, and on the other hand, you know, the kids at home and yourself, you have to eat. What are some, you know, maybe advice, not necessarily just at the community level, but also as just other people in the community, like that we can start helping each other? You get you speak so much about Ubuntu, and Ubuntu is the spirit of we are one. You know, what's your advice to someone? Let's say not necessarily the mother who can't afford her health care or bread at home, but somebody else who can maybe step in and assist, because most people don't know where to start. Yeah.
The thing is, a lot of people, when they think of creating change or creating impact, they believe that's when you come in and you get to change the lives of 20,000 people at once. But the thing is, sometimes only changing the life of that one person, and this has to start with, first it starts in our homes, and then we get, it moves on to our neighborhoods, to our workplaces, to our churches and everything, where you get to say, no, I have maybe 3 shirts, especially now that it's winter, it's very cold. You're like, no, I have an extra jersey somewhere there that I don't use. Let me hand it, let me give it over to the next person. And you might be surprised to learn that the same person maybe was sitting with something else that they were wondering, and can I give this to the next person and all that. So when you start where you are, because in most cases you also find somebody saying, no, but the government need to do, forgetting that we are actually the government, and unfortunately the government offices and everything are not in our neighborhoods to get to see that there is Leena, for example, that is dealing with a challenge of that sort. But when we start where we are, with the little that we have, I'm certain we are going to make an impact in our societies.
Okay, thank you so much. We are still in conversation with Leena on the other side of this.
Namibia is a land of movement, with waves that never stop reaching forward. Here, adventure is not something we search for. It is something we are born into. In every corner of this country, creativity rises. From artists, from athletes, from dreamers. And when the world comes to explore Namibia, they discover something extraordinary. Because when sport moves people, creativity moves ideas, and tourism moves the world toward us. Something powerful happens. A platform where movement meets imagination, where industries connect, where opportunity grows, where Namibia's next chapter begins. Welcome to the Creative Sport Tourism Expo. Exhibit, partner, experience. Creative Sport Tourism.
We are still in conversation with Leena Amwaalwa, who is a Namibian youth leader, advocate, and founder and director of the Conscious Millennials Foundation. Now, Leena, you wear several hats. You are an activist, a youth leader, labor relations practitioner, and a mentor. How do you balance all these different roles you have?
If you look at all these roles, you see that somewhere, somehow, they are intertwined or connected, in a sense that in terms of labor relations, you find that it speaks on the aspect of restoring dignity and fairness in the workplaces. And you look at advocacy, it speaks on empathy, that is, creating society or environments where everyone gets to take care of the next person. And if you look at mentorship, that speaks on investing in people. So if you look at all this, there is an aspect of service to others. And in a way, I kind of don't really see it as, I don't really get to change heads that much. It's just an aspect of maybe stepping from one space to another to continue what I was doing in the previous space, but maybe in terms, different, let's say, different environments, and also speaking different language, because the language that I speak when I'm on advocacy work is not exactly the same language that I speak when I get to go into labor relations space, and it might in a way not always be the same language that I get to speak when I go into mentorship or mentoring spaces. But at the end of the day, it's an aspect of human service, so it's more of just the same thing. And it's the same thing, but I'm doing it in changing just environments and changing languages, so then it fits to the space that I'm serving in at that moment.
I love that. I love that. So as much as it's still different hats that you're wearing, it's still serving the same thing.
Very much.
Now, as a recruitment and selection coordinator for the Yali RLCSA alumni, Namibia, you encounter many young leaders. What excites you most about the current generation of the Namibian youth, and also what concerns you the most?
What excites me the most, and by the way, serving as a recruitment and selection coordinator during my early days has positioned me or placed me in a position where I had the first or the front seat to young Namibians' creativity spaces. And what excites me is the fact that young people are willing to challenge the norms as we know them, questioning all the fact that, for example, young people are not ready to lead and everything, but you get to sit with them and you realize that there's actually potential, and the young people are willing. They just need the support and opportunity. But there are challenges that comes with that. Number one, as we all know, in the terms of, say, civil society spaces, for example, or even young people running businesses and everything, there is an aspect of the challenge of funding. You find there is potential, you find there are innovative ideas, but they cannot, the people cannot bring such to fruition because they are struggling with funding. And as a result, you find most young people are leaving these spaces now to get into employment just so they get to make a living and support their families and everyone around them. But I'm convinced that there is creativity there, and the young people are using the little that they have to make the impact that we get to see today.
Now, gender equality remains a major conversation across Africa and perhaps across the world. What are some progress that you are championing for, and also some concerns that you still have?
One, in terms of gender equality, I'll give you an example of, say, Namibia, for example. If you look at most spaces, we no longer live in spaces where women are left out in terms of leadership, promotion, and everything. And initially, it was being done as an affirmative the position under the Affirmative Position Act. But now it's being done as not only people ticking off the check boxes, but actually women with potential getting into leadership roles and taking on responsibility. But I feel like we still have a lot to go, especially in terms of barriers to accessing healthcare. Because, for example, if I have to struggle, say, to get, I'll give you an example of my, say, maybe cervical cancer screening. Somebody has to give up their working hours so they get to go to the hospital and all that. And you also see that we are still grappling with the issue of gender-based violence. If you look at the news, especially this year alone, you look at there's always this happened where and all that. So those are still some of the challenges that we have. We still have a long way to go, but I feel like in terms of representation, we are there, but maybe going forth, we need to also push transformation. So they cannot just be representation, but then they also need to be transformation, and that brings into perspective the whole issues that women get to deal with, so then they can participate at their full potential.
Now, there are some that worry that we are leaving the boy child behind. Do you share the same sentiments?
In a way, I do, but I feel like when you look at empowering the boy child, over the years, we've concentrated on empowering the girl child, and I feel like in a way, we've kind of unintentionally neglected the boy child. But I'm also happy to see that men are also now championing their rights, and you see there are the boy forums that are also happening. And even in terms of leadership, we used to talk about the young girl representing, but then we also have young boys representing. I'll give you an example of the Commerce, the regional governor, for example. So in a way, we still have a long way to go in terms of balancing the equation, but I feel like we are doing the most, and it's just a matter of when we are lifting the girl child on one hand, we are also bringing along the boy child.
Now, your work has connected you to regional and global networks through the Commonwealth and other platforms. How have these experiences broadened your outlook and influence your approach to leadership and advocacy back home?
One, I came to the realization that the challenges that we are dealing with, say here in Namibia, for example, are the same challenges our colleagues are dealing with, say in Zambia, in Ghana, and other societies. But then it also deepened my perspective on say collaboration, for example. And you look at I came to realize that wherever we are, for as long as we combine our efforts, that regardless of where we are, at the end of the day, we are going to accomplish all these global, the first continental goals that we talk about, and then to the global goals that we aspire, for example, the Vision 2030.
Now, getting into my next question, social change often requires patience and resilience. Now, looking back on your journey so far, what achievements are you most proud of, and why does it stand out for you?
It's difficult to pinpoint one aspect at a time, but I feel like the fact that I get to touch people's lives. You know, yours is just to go in and I'll go somewhere doing something and I feel like I'm just doing this as the part of the work that I do. I'll go there and I'll or I get to meet people for a certain period of time and I'll get to go, and chances are high I'll even forget meeting that person's face. But to somebody else, you'll find that I have touched that person's life, and that has always given me the excitement and the courage to keep doing what I'm doing. I'll give you quickly an example of a man that I met in Korea. It was 2022 when we were working on January. The January is actually Cervical Cancer Awareness Campaign month. So we were then out distributing our awareness flyers as we usually do. And upon coming across him, he asked what you guys were doing, because we usually wear our awareness ribbons, and we're like, oh, what are you guys doing? And then we informed him of what we were doing, and we're like, oh no, we are raising awareness on cervical cancer. And he told us, and that story still touches me today. It's unfortunately that I never get to get his name or even his contact details, but he told us a story of how his sister was diagnosed with cervical cancer like 2 years before we met him. And he's saying for a very long time, she kept to herself, like she's hidden her situation and without seeking help. And by the time when it came to light, it was already at a late stage. And sadly, they have to lose her. So now he's telling us that I wish I could have met you guys 2 years ago. Then maybe you could have saved my sister's life. So with stories like that, those are some of the stories that I meet, and they get to give me courage to keep doing what I'm doing.
Thank you for sharing that. That's actually so touching. Speaking of what you envision for Namibia through your work, let's say in 10 years, 5 years time, what have you, what is a society that you want to envision and also help build for Namibia?
My greatest hope is to see or to create spaces where young people have an opportunity to thrive. This is regardless of status, the backgrounds they are coming from, and even academic status, because now we tend to judge people based on their level of education. Another thing that I would like to see happening, say in the next 5 to 10 years, is to create spaces where there are no barriers to be it to say healthcare access, basically for women and girls, and to also create spaces where women and girls get to live free in their society. Nowadays, like I mentioned earlier, that when you get to look at the news, some of the things that are happening out there, they give you that fear of sometimes even going to certain places at certain times. So my greatest hope is that at least in the next 5 to 10 years, women and girls get to live in spaces where they are free. And another thing that I would like to see happening in the next 5 to 10 years is to see economic empowerment, where I'm looking at this in terms of job creation and also in terms of empowering businesses to say that everyone, let's say for example, if somebody would like to run a business, then funding shouldn't be the one of the first things that they have to struggle with. And another thing that I would like to see, I would also like to see, and I'll take it back to education, because I feel like when we have an education system that is creating the young people who are able to go out and create, are empowered in a sense that they are going to not only be job seekers, but also in their position to impact their community. I feel like those are some of the things that I'm looking at. I may not have to frame it properly, but those are some of the things that I'm looking at.
All right. Thank you so much. I just wish you all the best with all your work, and thank you for all the work that you have done so far. Kudos, keep up. And for anybody out there who wants to join and become part of some of the programs that you are, currently busy with, just let them know where they can find you quickly.
All right.
Before we say goodbye.
Thank you very much for having me. If anybody would like to find out what we do, we have a Facebook page that is Conscious Millennials. Our logo or our profile picture has the Namibian flag in it. So if you go on your Facebook and you type in Conscious Millennials, you'll be able to find us. Or they can also alternatively contact me on my contact number, that is 081 41 57 544. 081 41 57 544. In case you would like to join some of our community initiatives just to get a glimpse of what we do, then they can reach out and we'll get to work together.
Thank you so much. And that's all the time that we have for you on Business First Africa. From me, Glen-Nora Tjipura. Until next time.